Good afternoon, prayer team. I wanted to encourage you today with something that I read and that God, what I say, downloaded on me last night. I was having my prayer time and I was talking to the Lord and I was telling him about all the people that were having to be quarantined and how that we had families, and I knew that this was an attack of the enemy. I knew it was the enemy trying to stop us from moving forward. So as I was praying and the Spirit of God was praying through me, I felt the Spirit say, look at the book of Joshua. Look at what happened to Jericho and to the Israelites when they faced Jericho. And if you go back to Joshua chapter 6 and you look at the first verse, it tells you that Jericho was shut down. They had closed off. They had shut down the city, locked the gates. Nobody came in and nobody went out. This was after Israel had crossed the Jordan. This was after Joshua sent the 2 spies into Jericho and to spy out the land. As a matter of fact, the spies were still in the city when it was shut down. They were there and the city officials were looking for them. And that's when the Lord said, don't you see, when you start to march against the enemy's territory, when you start to fight against the enemy's territory, he said, then he is going to shut down. He is going to shut everything down. He's going to close everything off to prevent you from going forward. He thinks that will intimidate you. He thinks that will deter you. He thinks that will discourage you. He said, but go back and look at Joshua chapter 2. So I went back to Joshua chapter 2, where Rahab was talking to the spies, and she told them, she says, we've heard what happened to y'all at the Red Sea. We've heard what is taking place. And when we heard this and we saw y'all coming in our direction, it said everybody's hearts melted. We lost courage. Fear set in on us. And the Lord, I believe, was telling us that's what's happening in the enemy's camp. Fear has set in with the enemy. Fear has come into the enemy. And so therefore he is trying to shut it down. He is trying to cut it off. He's trying to stop it. But be encouraged today. This should encourage you that much more, that our prayers are working. Our prayers are moving us forward. Our prayers are going to defeat the enemy, and he's going to have to give up that territory. God promised us back at the first of the year when I was praying about the prayer time. And he said, everywhere you put your spiritual foot, you're going to conquer it. You're going to have it. And so therefore the enemy knows that. And the enemy is trying to shut it down. Just like Jericho knew that. Their fear had struck them. And so they thought if they could lock it out, if they could shut it down, if they could close it off, if they could quarantine themselves in, then the children of Israel could not conquer them. But they were sorely defeated. For when God says we're going to win, we win. And just like he told Israel, he told them, he said, you keep moving. You do this. And I'm going to give you this city. I am going to give it to you. And that's exactly what God's going to do for us. He is going to give us our city. He is going to give us our families. He is going to answer our prayers. But we've got to keep pushing. We've got to keep praying. Don't be discouraged today. Don't give up today. Keep pushing, keep praying, keep being motivated and knowing that God is doing a work. The enemy can quarantine himself. He can try to quarantine us. But that does not stop the army of God. That does not stop God's people when we are determined and we know what God is going to do. So be encouraged today. God is moving. If the enemy is scared and he's locking down, it's because we're making headway. God bless you today, and we'll see you Sunday.